All right, welcome back to the podcast, everybody. Today we're going to talk about when it actually might be optimal and make the most sense to slow down or stop completely saving for retirement. As crazy as that might sound, that is actually the optimal decision for some folks in some situations. And I've given that advice to clients before. It can be the optimal advice for a number of reasons. I'll go through some of those scenarios. I'll also go through a potential example kind of to show you, how to think about this and how this might apply to your situation and some reasons that you might want to do this. And then we'll wrap up with the conclusion. So let's jump into some scenarios to where, hey, when would this maybe make sense to slow down or stop your retirement savings? And when I say retirement savings, I'm talking about the traditional, retirement advice of we're contributing to a 401k or an IRA of some sort. We're maxing out our TSP. We're doing things of that nature where we're putting away dollars in tax protected retirement accounts that's going to grow and grow over time, and we can't touch it for years. It's going to be for those retirement years, those 60, 70 plus, when we're 60, 70 plus. So some scenarios where this starts to creep in a little bit and make sense would be you're good on retirement savings and did a really good job early on. This movement is kind of called Coast FI, Coast Financial Independence. So this would be, hey, we maxed out our TSP, our 401ks, our IRAs, our taxable brokerage accounts. We put away tens and tens of thousands of dollars a year in our 20s so that when we're in our 30s, we kind of already have this nest egg that's going to continue to grow. We can divert funds to other things, starting a business, buying a house, whatever it may be. This is probably the best and most common reason that I see, hopefully, right? Knock on wood, that you're slowing down or stopping retirement savings. Hopefully it's not for bad reasons. We'll go into that. But I'll show you an example of this, but this is a very good reason to stop potentially if the numbers make sense. And we'll get into an example of this. Another scenario, you have debt. This is not a good example, right? This hopefully isn't you, but if we have high interest debt that we've accrued for whatever reason, the math might really make more sense to pay down that debt. I've seen folks that have credit card debt that is accruing at 15 to 25% APR interest rates. And that debt, if we pay that off, we're getting a 15 to 25% return versus investing in maybe a 401k or an IRA, where over the long period of time in the stock markets, you're going to get around 10% return. So the math makes sense there to stop or slow down savings in retirement accounts. Another reason might be you are starting a business. So starting a business is very capital intensive. Maybe if you're getting out of the military, you got out of the military, whatever it is, you've got a side hustle. It might require that startup capital. Taking out an SBA loan or taking out a loan is not always the best thing that you want to do for your situation. So slowing down that retirement savings so that we can divert more towards maybe a business or something else that we're excited about might be the right decision for you. It just depends. I would say the better job you've done early on, the more I think aggressive you can be with slowing down that retirement savings and diverting it towards something like a business. Another one, I'd be really careful about this one, but depending on what line of work you're in, depending on how excited you are about the work, you almost don't see yourself ever retiring, right? If we've done a good job, again, early on, this is more advantageous, but maybe we do some sort of virtual work or something where we don't even have to work 40 hours a week. We love it. It doesn't even feel like work. And we could see ourselves doing this for a very long time. Now, I could caveat that and say, you don't know the future. You don't know when your brain won't really be able to do the work anymore. Your body won't be able to keep up, whatever it is. So we always want to hedge our bets and be saving for that traditional retirement. But I think in today's day and age, many people will work jobs, knowledge workers that do things with their brain, will work virtual jobs for many, many years past the traditional retirement. So that's also something to consider when you're thinking about optimizing retirement savings. How much might I need someday? And, how much am I putting away now versus, how much am I going to be working potentially past that traditional retirement and still earning an income? We don't necessarily want to lock up all of our income, all of our savings in tax protected retirement accounts if we're just going to continue to work and work and work. So those are kind of some of the scenarios that this might start to make sense. I want to go through a potential example kind of to drive this home and show you how this might work in your situation. Okay, so here's a scenario to drive this home. Assume you're 33 years old, you have $400,000 in retirement savings, and your life expectancy is 100. If you decide that you need $240,000 a year in retirement, so $20,000 a month, and you're currently putting away $50,000 a year. This is a very, very common scenario for young, high-earning professionals, dual income families that both have six-figure jobs. I see this all the time. Folks that have done a really good job for the first 10 years of their career, and they're continuing to save at really high rates. We're maxing out both 401ks, we're doing Roth IRAs or backdoor Roth IRAs, and we're continuing to just sock away money for retirement. So this is the scenario. I have done the math at 6% rates of return, 5% rates of return, and 4% rates of return on this money. Assuming a retirement age of 65, some might be earlier than that, some might be much later, as I talked about earlier. If you have a job that you love, something that you can kind of do forever. But assuming a retirement at 65, this couple would need to put away $9,000 a year to retire at a 6% rate of return, assuming 6%. If we assume a 5% rate of return, they would need to put away $26,000 a year to retire successfully. If we assume a 4%, so very, very low, if they're investing in heavily the stock market, we should see real returns at around 7%. But if we assume the worst, 4% returns, they would be fine if they put away $49,000. This couple's putting away $50,000. If we change those numbers, some couples putting away more like $60,000 to $70,000 is not crazily uncommon to see. So this couple, depending on their goals, if they want to work till 70, if they have a job they think they want to do forever, they might want to slow down or stop retirement savings for a number of years. They've done such a good job that if they saved absolutely nothing, the math shows they would still be able to retire at 70 or 69 on a 6% rate of return. They've done such a good job early on. So it kind of shows you the math behind how doing a good job early on and letting that compounding take control can be an unbelievable tailwind for your retirement savings that can carry you all the way and give you so many options in these years where complexity just blows up and all of a sudden you've got a house, you've got kids, you're doing sports, you're starting a business, like all this stuff's happening in these 30s and 40s years where we don't really need to be sending $80,000 a year to retirement accounts necessarily. So it's just to show an example. And some of the reasons you might want to slow down is fund goals that matter a lot more really than having another million in retirement. So if we change the scenario and make it even more egregious, assuming this couple has $500,000 right now and they are putting away $80,000 a year at a 6% rate of return, they've almost funded their retirement completely so far. So if they continue to put away $80,000 a year, they could honestly retire at 51, which they probably don't want to. They probably do a job they love, or they're running a business, or whatever it may be. So I would encourage you to really think about these numbers and how they might apply to your situation, and how, hey, we have travel, we have a house we want to live in, we have time we want to spend with family, we want to start a business, whatever that may be, that capital is better used now than in the future for money that we probably will not need. Let's take this even one step further to really drive this home. So I'm going to use wealth.com. It's a tool that I use with my clients, an estate planning tool. And it has a very nice projections calculator where we can just, in a simple way, give a net worth, give a savings amount, a growth rate, and we can kind of project potential estate taxes that might be due upon death of the client. So let's make it someone who's 33, net worth about $750, annual savings of $80,000. If we calculate what the estate tax bill might be on that at let's just say a 6.5% growth rate, given tax law right now, which the estate tax exemption is $13.61 million per spouse right now. It's the highest it's ever been. It's actually due to sunset back into half that amount. But even with that inflated amount of that estate tax exemption, this scenario has me paying $6 million to the IRS at death on estate taxes. And there's all kinds of things we can do to reduce that over time. There's all complex strategies. I'm totally not going to get into that. But my point is only being, if we continue to put away money to grow and grow and grow and grow that we will not use, and we're just going to pass it on to our kids someday, at some point, we are going to just blow up the amount of money that we are going to pay to the IRS. Saving and accumulating wealth way past that estate tax exemption, which right now is around $27 million for a married couple. Going way past that, we don't have a huge incentive because estate taxes are generally taxed at about 40%. So if we continue to go past that 27 million mark, again, if it goes back to half that, which it's scheduled to now in 2026. So assuming that happens, it's really 13 million. If we go way past that, we're now giving 40% to the IRS. So this is just another reason to think about what you're accumulating, what you're on track for, and why you're doing this. If we want to die as the richest man in the graveyard, we should continue to accumulate wealth, and we can pay tax to the IRS and we win the game. We die as the richest. But if we want to optimize our money, this is probably not the optimal scenario. I think there's a happy medium where we can accumulate wealth, we can have a retirement of abundance, we can give to charities, we can leave a good legacy for our kids, but not overly so to where we are paying a huge bill to the IRS and then we didn't enjoy, here's the kicker, we didn't enjoy our 30s and 40s, that, you know, we were just socking away 100 grand into retirement accounts and not living in the house we wanted, not taking the trip that we wanted to take every year with our family, not starting the business that we wanted to start. So that's the killer. That's the kicker. I think super savers really need to think about this and how it applies to their situation. So to wrap up, it may make sense at some point for you to slow down or even stop retirement savings, as crazy as that sounds. I've given that advice to clients before. It may be the optimal decision for you and your money. I can't tell you what to do. I don't know you. Each situation is totally different. But especially if you do a really good job early on and let compounding do the work, you could be best off slowing down or stopping your retirement savings. And this is to divert funds to things that matter for you today and in the next 3, 5, 10 years, like starting a family, getting a house that you want, travel, even just time to take a sabbatical, spend more time with your kids when they're younger, starting the business that you've always wanted to start. You know, these are things that you're not going to be able to do later on. Dying with another $1 or $2 million next to your name isn't as important as doing the things you want to do today. So be intentional, do the math, think about this stuff, and make sure that you are being thoughtful with where you're putting your dollars. Every year, this needs to be done on an ongoing basis. This isn't, we think about it once and then we never think about it again. We need to reassess where we're at, both qualitatively and quantitatively, on at least an annual basis, and make sure we're allocating our dollars to the proper places that align with our values. I hope this was helpful for you. Let me know if you have any questions. Please rate and review on Apple or Spotify if you're listening there. It's super helpful to spread the podcast to more listeners and get this information in the hands of more people. So thanks again for being here. Thanks so much for listening, and we'll see you next week.